Now we're going to move to our second speaker, Dr. Sahar Elmougy. I don't know how to introduce her for the very simple reason that she has been a very old and dear friend. Okay, we work together. Dr. Sahar is
one of us.
Is one of us. Yes, she teaches at the Department of English, Cairo University. But more than that, I remember when we both used to meet when we took our children to the same nursery. So our friendship goes far back. Sahar Elmougy is an academic, as I have just said, but she's not only that. She has a radio program, and she writes a column in the papers in Masjid. And she's also a creative writer who's produced a number of fictional works. سيدة المنام, Daria, Noon, Elia, Sahira. My favorite is Noon. And I have to admit that I am biased, okay? And I don't want to talk more than that because I need to give you more time. Sahar, please welcome Sahar.
Good evening and thank you all. When I started thinking about this short talk, and I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to talk about, eventually things were moving more on a creative track. So I came up with the tale of the androgynous phoenix and the patriarch. The tale is not complete yet because the chapters of the revolution are still unfolding. And therefore, I'll be trying as much as possible to depict the basic features of this tale and the two main protagonists in an attempt to read the Egyptian revolution from the lens of archetypal psychology. As I said, once upon a time, we cooked a revolution, and this time is not too far back in history. And the revolution, as Mr. Khair just said, was by definition creative. It was creative and improvised at the same time. And by improvised here, I mean the opposite of planned. Like in the 1952 revolution, that's a planned revolution. And in this improvised act, huge masses of people took to the streets, and in doing that, they were rejecting a long-established reality and voicing out their dream. And this act in itself is an act of the imagination. And by improvised, I mean not every improvised act is creative. Sometimes improvised acts turn disastrous or ugly. But in the case of our revolution, it was both creative and improvised. And improvised here, I will focus more on the word because in trying to understand where the creativity comes from, I was starting to see, actually from the early days of the revolution, that what was taking place is something much bigger than what it seems. Something was happening on the level of the collective subconscious. And it's on that stage of the collective subconscious that something big, a big drama was taking place. It was a moment of awakening. We all know that, but it wasn't the awakening of individuals. It was the awakening of this old reservoir of legacies, of old legacies, and all the thousands of years engraved in the subconscious mind were coming into existence. They have been dormant. They cannot be dead by definition, but they were dormant, and then something happened and some archetypes started moving in the dark. on the night of the 28th of January, after a long day of running down the streets of downtown Cairo, the gas and everything, all that we have lived and known, around 8 o'clock, I was in front of the Egyptian Museum, and it was the first time I hear a song in the revolution. And it was still chaotic, extremely chaotic. The gas and people were still attacking some police and army vehicles. And in the middle of all this chaos, there was a song coming from behind me, and I was like, anyways, it was a very strange moment, and then I realized that those were the people who were protecting the museum by their own bodies. They were standing around and over the fence, singing, and I don't think it's a coincidence that they were singing Biledi Biledi, the national anthem. And they were waiting for the army to come and protect the Egyptian Museum. And I can say that most of those people haven't been into the museum before. But there was something that was telling them that this is the place to protect now. You might be generous with your life, but you can't be generous with that. I'm still talking here of the subconscious, and the subconscious by definition is androgynous. It is the yin and yang. It is the male and female. In this collective subconscious, there are no polarities, no enmities. We don't have the same conflicts that we have on the conscious level. In there's a legacy of balance and coexistence, and this legacy could be read and traced in all ancient civilizations, the Egyptian included. The surfacing of this unconscious mind meant the rebirth of the feminine, the rebirth of the feminine archetype in the Egyptian psyche. One could trace the feminine in the songs, in the dance, in the loving embrace with the people in the streets, the waves of tenderness among the people, the protectiveness, strangers exchanged, and the respect for human life. And this newly born archetype sort of blended immediately with the existing male aspect, and a phoenix was born. It was born out of its own ashes. Who is the phoenix? We all know. The phoenix loves music and dance. And between brackets, I always remember the story of a film director, a friend of mine, who told me that when he saw a woman in Tahrir Square, she was like 50 years old, wearing a galabeya, a very simple, plain black dress, and she was dancing, really dancing. When he saw this, he said, Mubarak is over and done with. So the phoenix loves music and dance. He believes in freedom, craves dignity, and turns angry when humiliated. The phoenix does not know sectarianism, gender discrimination, and all the other ailments plaguing the conscious mind. And definitely the phoenix is a leftist. And I'm taking the question further. What has the phoenix given us? The phoenix has helped us reinvent ourselves. In what ways? Imagine the media machine of the dictator for 30, 40 years, depends on personal interpretations of the political scene. Imagine the media machine telling the Egyptians all the time, day and night, you breathe a lot and you eat a lot and you don't work and you're just awful. And you are driven to the point of self-loathing. And down there in the streets, you discover that all this was lies. It was sheer lies. Nothing of this was true. And it was just the media machine magnifying what is negative at the cost of anything that's positive. And at a very unexpected self. You come to see this collective, a very unexpected moment. You come to see this self as beautiful can be. You come to see the self as strong and daring and noble, etc. And a healing of old scars was taking place. The new self was born. It was a moment of wholeness. And all the creative acts that were taking place in the streets, they were a mere reflection of the reinventing of the self that was actually happening. What about the manifestations of this androgynous phoenix? If you zoom out the camera, you can see the phoenix in all the photographs taken from high above, from Qasr al-Nil or the Intercontinental of Qasr al-Nil Bridge, with a massive body spreading its hands and limbs into the square. And if you zoom in the image, and you keep zooming in, you will start seeing circles of dance, and you will start hearing songs, and you will see that the psyche was going back to its androgynous state. Now, where is the conflict? The conflict comes from the other character, the villain, the patriarch. The patriarch definitely was shaken a bit, but deep down he wasn't worried because he knew he can keep things under control. And by the patriarch, I don't mean Mubarak, I mean the system. I mean the social, political, religious system governing us all, and the power of money, the power of the people who speak about religion, the power of all that. They were all, it's a huge network, and it has to be protected. And what can they do? They would do anything. Each and everyone in this room can think of something they have done or are still doing, and still the media machine is working, messing up people's minds and flooding them with contradictions, lack of transparency, putting false road signs and asking people to walk them, drowning people in invented wars and threats of aliens coming from outer space in order to invade the precious land of Egypt. And time moves on. The patriarch takes off the military uniform, he puts on a beard, he grows a beard, and all along playing the same tunes, the tunes of the aliens coming from outer space. Meanwhile, the phoenix is being kicked in the butts, it's being pushed, flogged, burnt, dragged naked in the streets and stepped upon. The basic target of the patriarch is to split up this wholeness that has taken place in the 18 days, is to fragment it once again, is to tell the people, no, that was a sheer dream, that was not true. The fact that Muslims and Christians were there in the loving embrace of the place, the fact that women were not suffering sexual harassment, all that, that's an exceptional moment and all that shit. And this explains because this is where I disagree with Mr. Mohammed, that the regime is not gone. Who said so? Not for a minute. We believed that we have dismantled this regime. This is not true. It has just, as I said, grown a beard. And the basic target of the patriarch, as I said, is to split up this wholeness, and in doing that, they have to stab the feminine archetype again. They have to push, they can't kill it, they can't do that, so they have to push it underground again. They have to take it out of the scene, out of what's happening. And that explains the frenzy against women. That explains why the feminine is so threatening, because the feminine means the wholeness, and they can't take that, they can't deal with that. The phoenix has undergone phases of this disillusionment, full of scars. It keeps trying to pull itself back on its feet, but being who she is, who she and he is, the phoenix is also unpredictable. It's unpredictable even to the people who make up its massive body. We can never really say when she's going to come back once again. I will be wrapping up with Ovid, the Roman poet, speaking about the phoenix as, and I quote, "Most beings spring from other individuals, but there is a certain kind which reproduces itself, the phoenix. When it has lived 500 years, it builds itself a nest in the branches of an oak or on the top of a palm tree. In this, it collects cinnamon and myrrh, and of these materials builds a pile on which it deposits itself, and dying, breathes out its last breath amidst others. From the body of the parent bird, a young phoenix issues forth, destined to live as long as its life would be. And when this has grown up, the small phoenix, and gains sufficient strength, it lifts its nest from the tree and carries it to the city of Heliopolis in Egypt and deposits it in the temple of the sun." So, as I said at the beginning, the story is still unfolding. You have the characters here, you can play with them and do whatever you want. But the interesting twist of events is that the phoenix is not Egyptian, it's everywhere. This is a moment in history where the phoenix is materializing and coming back to life in many countries of the world, even the countries, even the Western countries where we think there is social justice and all that. People are becoming more and more disillusioned, and they're becoming more and more aware of the patriarchy, and patriarchy, in short, is being under attack, very fierce attack at the moment. They're still playing great and sober and in charge, but this is not true. Thank you.
Thank you, Sahar, very much for this creative account of the revolution. You take me back to a very dear moment, and I already feel like I'm growing wings. So let's hope the phoenix comes back to life, and we'll have to leave the phoenix in peace for now.